All hail your ring general.
Welcome to Book It a Wrestling podcast for the fans, by the fans. We book, rebook, and revisit your favorite wrestling storylines. I'm your commissioner, Lil X Fudge, and today we are here with your GMs, Damone, Big Daddy D Money,
Mario.
the bad guy, Kenny.
Oh yeah!
Oh, I hated that dance.
Hey, that T-Pain real quick.
For the video audience, that was nasty. And the third return of Hi-Fi Mike.
Did I do that?
Yes, you did.
And this is going to be a nasty episode for multiple reasons, especially for our video audience already. Because one, they had to see Kenny hit that dance. Two, they got to see Damone without his beard. And
They
three,
just gotta see Mike.
they just got to see me and Mike. We're white. We age like milk. So
Wow, racist.
Listen,
it's bad time. Racist
It's Mi-
against my own, so it's okay.
it's Mikey Noble and who are
Mikey
you?
Noble.
I don't
And who?
know who you are.
Who was the other J in J Security?
Joey Mercury.
Joey Mercury.
and what's his name? Brian Pillman Jr.
Fuck, not Lexus King again.
Texas King.
I've
Lexus
never
King.
beaten the Lexus King allegation.
J security was
It's definitely the hair. You need to do the beard like him.
Oh yeah, get that dyed
That
ass.
zigzag.
beard.
Shit,
Well, you need the Just for Men too right now. Paint your shit back on.
It should be crispy.
if J&J security came back with Seth Rollins, I'd pop. I'd probably be.
I would too. That was
the best
viewer.
I popped too. They were great. That was a
Like
great.
CM Punk's about to
it
whoop
was-
his ass, and then J&J Security comes out and jumps him.
It was
Especially with
so
Joey
good.
Mercury's history with Phil. Yeah, that's fire. $10.
Like, I love it. I miss it. That was a good time in wrestling. I don't really care who says what, but that was a good time.
It had
like
some
it.
big bright spots for
And then
sure.
it got real bad real quick. It was good, and then it wasn't.
Yeah,
Well-
that's wrestling a lot of the time. Just like my show, probably.
Yeah. Speaking of, we should probably get that going.
Yes. So tonight we continue PWR, no quarters given. Let's see if we have any quarters left to give D Money as he starts his show. Take us away.
Left.
Okay. So at Evil, we saw that Father James Mitchell and Mil Morates kidnapped Dominic Mysterio and threatened to hurt him if Ray didn't give Mil a match. And this is like 10-year-old Dominic, not Dirty Dom, pre-Dirty Dom.
This
Ray
clean Dom.
This is clean Dom. Rey Mysterio is considered to be the greatest masked wrestler in professional wrestling history, while Mil Morates is under the guidance of Mitchell, and they have been collecting masks so Mil can fulfill the prophecy. Rey knows this and has refused to face Mil to prevent that from happening. The episode is sitting after Evil. We see Rey still looking for Dominic. Rey comes out to the ring and he demands they return his son unharmed. We see Mil and Mitchell appear on the Tron. Mitchell says, Ray, Ray, Ray. We'd love to return poor little Dominic without a scratch on his little head. But you're the one making this so very difficult. All you have to do is accept my monster's challenge and you can have the little bastard back. The greatest luchador ever versus the mask collector. Mask versus mask. At no quarters given. Ray hesitates. Ray, if I were you, I'd hurry up and make my decision. Mil is getting a little irritated, and I don't know if I can stop what happens next. We see Mil holding a kendo stick ready to hit Dominic. Okay. You got your match. Whatever you want. Just give me back my son. See, Ray, it wasn't that hard now, was it? And we're men of our word, but you're going to have to come to us. 4-2-5 Main Street. Ray bolts out of the ring and to the back as they go to break. We come back from break, we see Ray get into his Hellcat. Later in the show, Ray gets to the location that Mitchell gave him, which is an old abandoned church. Ray enters the church and starts screaming out for Dom. Dom screams out, "I'm in here, Dad! I'm in here!" Ray runs toward the voice and sees Dominic tied up in the chair and runs towards him and starts to untie him. "They didn't hurt you, did they?" "No, Dad, I'm fine. I'm fine." Out of the shadow comes Mitchell. "Don't worry, Ray. We took very good care of him." Ray sees Mitchell and runs after him into the shadows, but then a few seconds later, we see Mel holding Ray by the throat as they come out of the shadows. He then chokeslams Ray onto the hardwood floor, then beats him with the kendo stick, and then throws him into a Mary statue. "That's for making us wait. See you at no quarters given," Mitchell says. We find out the next week that Dom is home safe, but Ray is hospitalized, but will be cleared by the pay-per-view. James Mitchell and Miller scheduled to be interviewed by Maria on the next episode of Sin. Before she can ask anything, Mitchell takes the mic and says, "Your services are no longer required, so just stand over there and look pretty." "Ray, we just want you to know that what happened at the temple and what's going to happen at no quarters given, it isn't personal. It's just destiny. Once we take the mask of the greatest luchador of all time, there's nobody, and I mean nobody, who can stop him." And then that's the end of that segment. On the go home show, Ray is getting interviewed by Maria. Maria says to Ray, "How's Dominic?" Ray says, "He's physically okay, but mentally, it's going to take a little while to get over being kidnapped and all of that." Mitchell Muertes, "Our match on Sunday isn't just a mask versus mask match. It's to protect the heritage of the luchador, the heritage of the mask, and now it's to avenge my family. I promised Dominic I was going to hurt you, and I can't think of a better way than to beat you in that ring and take your mask. You will pay for what you did to my familia." That's the end of that interview. Before the match starts and the men come out, we see a video narrated by Conan, highlighting Rey Mysterio's career, including his WCW debut, him versus Eddie in WCW, Rey winning the Royal Rumble, winning the World Heavyweight Championship, some highlights of him in Lucha Underground, all which lead to him being considered the greatest luchador in pro wrestling history. Then it transitions to Mil Muertes highlights and him being the mask collector, dominating luchador after luchador after luchador, and taking their mask, including Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr. Then the clip of the attack. We see the clip of the attack in the cathedral. Conan says, "Joined by fate, by destiny, by heritage, by the mask. Who will leave no quarters given victorious? The man of 1,000 deaths, or the ultimate underdog? A prophecy versus a legend." So the match itself, and it's going to be spot. So Ray comes out in El Santo inspired gear. Mira Muertes is wearing like a Bane inspired gear. So the bell rings and Ray comes out firing and throwing punches and kicks, forcing Millen back into the corner. Ray then climbs up and lands 10 punches to the head, but Muertes doesn't go down. Ray runs to the other corner and hits a splash, but Mil is still up and doesn't go down. Ray again runs to the other corner, goes for the splash again, but Muertes hits a Uranagi. Muertes Irish whips Ray, then takes his head off with a discus clothesline. Muertes hits a power bomb and stacks Ray for the pin, but Ray kicks out. Muertes then deadlifts Ray and lands a power bomb face buster and goes for the pin. Ray kicks out. Muertes hits a gorilla press drop, then a running splash to the back of Ray. Moritez Irish whips Ray into the corner and goes for a splash, but Ray moves out of the way, and Moritez goes chest first into the turnbuckle hard. Ray then hits a tilt-a-whirl, head scissors takedown. Muertes pops back up, and Ray hits a wheelbarrow DDT. Muertes rolls to the outside. Ray hits a tope con hilo, knocking Muertes down and keeping him down for the first time in the match. On the outside, they train strikes as they get to their feet. Mill has the advantage and grabs Ray onto his shoulder and tries to send him into the ring post, like torpedo him. But Ray slips out, then drop kicks Mill in the back, sending him face first into the turnbuckle. Ray slides back into the ring. Mill gets into the ring, but Ray immediately hits a springboard leg drop to the back of Mill's head and tries to cover him, but it's only a 2 count. Ray goes to the top rope, but Moritez gets up and hits a superplex and goes for the pin. Ray kicks out. Mill then hits a brainbuster for another long 2 count. Ray rolls out of the ring. When Ray gets up, Mil Moritez gets a head of steam and hits a plancha. He then throws Ray back into the ring and hits a cradle pile driver. He goes for the pin. 1, 2, Ray kicks out. Mill goes to the corner and goes for the dagger in the heart spear, but Ray counters it into a destroyer. He goes for the pin. 1, 2, Mill kicks out. When Mill gets up, Ray drop kicks him into the ropes and hits the 619. Ray hits a frog splash. 1, 2, Mill powers out. Ray waits for Mill to get up and lands kicks to the legs of Mill, dropping him to one leg, and then he hits a head scissors DDT. Moritez is in the corner when Ray hits a Bronco Buster. He's sitting in the corner. Ray hits the Bronco Buster. Ray goes for a Hurricane Rana, but Mill overpowers him and hits a running power bomb for a pin. 1, 2, Ray kicks out. Mill then locks in the sharpshooter. Ray manages to barely drag himself to the bottom rope and breaks the hold. Mill waits for Ray to get up and hits the dagger in the heart spear. 1, 2, Ray kicks out. Mill is shocked. Moritez picks up Ray and goes for the powerbomb again, but Ray counters and sends him into the ropes. Ray runs and hits the 619, and Mill goes flying back, but he's still on his feet. Ray goes for the springboard, like crossbody splash, but Mill counters it with a straight to hell, which is a jumping STO. 1, 2, 3. Mill Moritez is your winner. After the bell, so the bell rings. After the bell, Mill gets up as James Mitchell joins him in the ring. Ray is noticeably upset. He drags himself to the corner and pulls himself up. Ray takes a deep breath as the fans chant no, but Ray agreed to it. So Ray unties the back of his mask and he pulls his mask off and he hands it to Mill, who hands it over or holds it up as James Mitchell laughs maniacally. Ray leaves the ring defeated and devastated and makes his way to the back.
I can start.
Speak at once. Okay, go ahead.
Mike, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was just everybody was really quiet, and I wanted the listeners to know we were still here. Their phone didn't die.
Okay. So, I personally, I like the story. I think the match was, in my opinion, a little bit underwhelming, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. It was just a little bit underwhelming. Here in the spots. So I gave you a 4.25 because I liked everything with the story. I just think the match was a little bit like it could have been a little bit better, but it was still good though.
I'm not mad at it. I'll take it.
I felt the story. It wasn't bad by any means, but it didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like it did anything really new for me. I didn't dislike it, but it felt like very much like every.
It's pretty much just a continuation of the Mil
Yeah.
Muertes collecting the mask. He reached the final boss of Masters.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's like lucha de apuestas, like every storyline. It kind of feels like, but it was done well. Match was good. Um, I'm just gonna give this like I'm gonna give it a 3.75. I thought this was pretty
Okay,
good, but
I'll
not
take
beyond
it.
that.
Is it book it verse if somebody doesn't get kidnapped? I feel like
No, it's not a book
it's
and
you
verse if
gotta
there's not at
have
least
at
one
least
kidnapping.
one kidnapping, you know, at minimum. Um, yeah, it was good. I liked it. I'm going to 4.25.
Yeah, I'll take it. Okay, so next is a segment. So Jonathan Gresham comes out to the ring to give the crowd an update on former women's champion and his wife Jordan Grace, who's been in a coma from eating poisoned fruit. Um, I just want to start off by saying thank you to all of you who've sent Jordan cards, sent well wishes, been praying, or just sending out positive thoughts. Jordan, her family, and myself can't thank you all enough. It's greatly appreciated. As everyone knows, she's been in a coma over the last few months, hooked up to machines fighting for her life. Suddenly, Scarlett Bordeaux's music plays and she comes out and it says, "I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to personally send you my well wishes out to Jordan. We all miss her." As the crowd boos. Really, Scarlett? You and I both know you had something to do with this. You couldn't beat her in this ring. So what do? You poison her? Put her in a coma so that you can win the title? Scarlett said, "You think I poisoned Jordan?" Yes. Well, Jonathan, you're right. I did it and I do it again. I did what I needed to do to get to the top of the mountain and I wouldn't change a thing.
I did it for the
I
win.
I'm the PWR women's champion and Jordan Grace is in the hospital on life support. So I'm the greatest women's wrestler in the world right now, and that's not changing any time soon. As the crowd like showers her with booze, Jonathan says, "Well, you're half right. You are the women's champion here in PWR, but who said Jordan's still in the hospital?" Jordan's music hits and Jordan comes out and runs into the ring, or she comes out like stands like at the top of the ramp for a second, as the crowd like cheers and everything, and then she comes running out towards Scarlett, knocking her like Scarlett tries to fight her off, keeps knocking her down with clothesline after clothesline, and then hits a body slam. She hates for Scarlett to stand and gets in position for the Juggernaut driver, but Scarlett is in desperation, swings her magic mirror at Jordan's head. Um, but Jordan ducks under, bounces off, and hits a spear on on Scarlett, and then flexes. Jordan sees the mirror and she's ready to use it, but Scarlett manages to barely just slide out of the ring as Jordan like tries to grab her, and she escapes into the crowd. As Jordan grabs the women's title and holds it up, as Scarlett waits with fear as we go to a commercial break. That's it for that segment.
Okay. Um, I think it's a little bit above mid. I'm at a 3.5 for this. More 3.5.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I was a little bit swerved. I thought we were going into like the next week of segments for a match or something.
I was too, and I was like, oh, okay.
I'll wait for the next part. Yeah, I think 3.5 is appropriate. Like, it did the job it needed to explain what Jordan Grace in a coma. We know who did it. We know where it's going. But I wasn't like, I wasn't saying like, holy shit up to that promo or anything.
Yeah.
3.5's fair.
Okay. So to the co-main event. So at Evil, Gunther, with the help of Imperium, successfully defended the World Heavyweight Championship against Will Ospreay. So a number one contenders gauntlet is announced for the following week, featuring Miro, Rhino, Sean O'Hare, Joe Gacy, Del Vikingo, Ricky Starks, Batista, Shannon Moore, Miz, Jeff Jarrett, Brock, Brodus Clay. I don't know why I changed it to Brooks Clay. Brodus Clay.
Not Brooke.
Brodus Clay, Damian Sandow, Osprey, and Imperium members Doug Williams and Nick Aldis. So it's a like half that week's show is the gauntlet match. So in Imperium's locker room, we see Gunther give the marching orders to Aldis and to Doug Williams that they need to win the match to defend so that he has an easier defense. So the gauntlet starts with Nick Aldis entering one and the Miz number two. Aldis beats Miz and makes it to where there's only 4 men left. So Nick Aldis is surviving, beating people, makes it to the till there's the final 4. So it's himself, Batista, who he starts facing, and Batista's dominating him momentarily, and he's appearing to be being losing to him. And the other 2 who are in waiting is Miro and Doug Williams. Aldis manages to slide out of a Batista bomb, and he manages to barely roll up Batista for 1, 2, 3 to advance. And like Batista's pissed, but the ref makes him get out. Doug comes out next, and he gets on the mic and tells Nick to lay down so that he can advance because he's the fresher man and he can beat Miro. All this like begins to, but then he gets back up and shakes his head no. Gunther then comes out from the back and says, Nick, the order's for me. Lie down right now. That's a direct order. Nick is torn, but relents and lies down. And when Nick goes to cover him, 1, 2, but then Nick turns it or counters it and rolls up Doug into a small package. 1, 2, 3. Nick Aldis defeats Doug Williams to advance in the gauntlet. Doug gets to they both get to their feet. Doug gets in his face and he's about to punch him, but Gunther gets in the ring and separates the two. We see Gunther tell Doug to go to the back and that Nick better win or you'll be joining Ludwig in retirement. Miro comes out and he's dominating Nick, throwing him around with ease. Nick makes a comeback when Miro misses a splash in the corner, but gets put back down with a super kick. Miro signals for the Redeemer and he locks it in. It looks like Nick is going to tap, but he refuses and makes it to the bottom rope. Miro drags Nick back to the middle of the ring and he goes to lock it in again, but this time Nick manages to counter it, swipe out Miro's leg, and he locks in the King's Cloverleaf. Miro tries to fight out of it, but he gives into the pain and eventually taps out. Gunther gets back in the ring because he was at ringside, and he raises Aldis's arm. So the next week, Imperium makes their way to the ring. Nick this is Gunther. Nick, step forward, my boy. Last week, you disobeyed a direct order when I told you to lie down and let Doug cover you. But luckily for you, you pulled it off. You ran the gauntlet and emerged victorious and are now the new number one contender to my world title. As the crowd starts to like cheer because they're starting to like Nick. Yeah, everyone give him a round of applause. He deserves it. Very impressive feat. But what now, Nick? Do you really think you stand any chance if we were to face each other? You and I both know you wouldn't. You managed to barely defeat that swashbuckling idiot, Paul Burchill, and you think you'd stand a chance against the greatest champion this industry has ever seen? Let's be realistic, Nick. So this is what's going to happen. Later tonight, we're going to have your title match. Yeah, everybody cheer, and like the crowd starts cheering. And you're going to do the right thing this time, and you're going to lie down and let me pin you and save yourself the embarrassment. And then Mr. Blassie can find me a real challenger for no quarters given. You can see like Nick looks confused and upset. Hey, this is for your own good. He then pats him on the chest like hard, and everyone but Nick are leave the ring, and just Nick in the ring by himself. And then he eventually like follows along. Later that night, the title match happens. Nick comes out first and is noticeably like upset and dejected. Gunther then comes out with the rest of Imperium. The bell rings and Gunther motions for Nick to lie down. Nick begins to slowly, but does lie down. Gunther goes for the cover, but then Nick kicks out and pushes Gunther off. Gunther says, "What are you doing? I said lie down." Then he like mushes him in the face. Nick gets face to face with Gunther. "I said lie down now." Nick backs off and he lies down again. Gunther puts his foot on Nick's chest. 1, 2. Nick kicks out again, and he gets up and gets in Gunther's face. Gunther says, "Do what I said, or I will hurt you." Nick says, "Hurt me?" Then Gunther chuckles and swings for a chop, but Nick ducks it and he hits a series of elbow strikes, then clotheslines Gunther out of the ring. So then they start having like a legit match. The two have a back and forth match. Gunther gets the upper hand and goes for the power bomb and hits it. 1, 2. Aldis kicks out. Gunther goes for another one, but Nick escapes and hits the BDD, which is a sit out scoop slam pile driver. 1, 2. But then Doug Williams slides into the ring and he breaks up the pin, and the ref calls for the bell. Imperium proceed to then beat down Aldis, with Gunther hitting 3 back to back to back power bombs, and then putting his boot on his chest as Vinci counts 1, 2, 3, which obviously doesn't count. Blassie is the like crowd is booing and everything. Blassie announces that due to the match ending in a ending in a DQ, the rematch will take place at no quarters given, with Imperium banned from ringside. So on the go home show, Nick Aldis comes out to the ring to cheers. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could just have a moment of your time, I'd greatly appreciate it. When I came to PWR, it was to get revenge on my former partner, Paul Burcho, and I did that when I helped Gunther throw him into the Atlantic at Shipwreck. And I joined Imperium because I respected Gunther and everything he's done in this industry. But the longer I've been around him, the less and less and less respect I have for him. He claims to be the ring general and trying to restore the honor to pro wrestling, but in reality, he's no different than anyone else. He's selfish, he's egotistical, and worst of all, he's a bully. He manipulates people, but he couldn't do that to me." To misquote the great Shawn Michaels, Nick Aldis lays down for absolutely nobody. And that includes you, Gunther. So I'll see you at no quarters given when I take the only thing you really care about and become the new PWR World Heavyweight Champion. He then begins walking up the ramp and turns to like say thank you to the fans when he gets attacked from behind by Gunther, who power bombs him on the stage and stands over him, yelling at him, "You're not good enough," and holds the title over his head. So to the match itself. So Nick comes out wearing a blue jacket with white and gold trim and blue tights. Gunther comes out wearing all black trunks with white lettering saying Ring General on the back and Imperium on the front. So it's going to be spots again. So the bell rings and both men lock up for the test of strength. It's initially a stalemate, but Nick gets the advantage and pushes Gunther into the corner and gives a clean break and stands in the center and tells Gunther to come on. They lock up again. Gunther gets the advantage this time, then appears to make a clean break, but then he smushes Nick in the face, being disrespectful, which angers Nick, who runs after him, but then Gunther chops him down immediately. Gunther hits a butterfly suplex, sending Nick across the ring, then an over the head belly to belly suplex. Gunther Irish whips Nick that hits a big boot. As he goes to pick Nick up by the hair, Nick rolls him up in a small package. 1, 2, Gunther just kicks out and slides out of the ring to think for a second, but Nick runs and hits a suicide dive, sending Gunther into the barricade. Nick puts Gunther against the barricade and lands a series of chops and punches. Nick hits a running big boot to Gunther, sending him to the ground. Nick throws Gunther back into the ring. Nick hits a stalling vertical suplex for a long 2 count. He gets Gunther up, Irish whips him, and hits a Samoan drop. Nick Irish whips Gunther into the corner. He hits a series of European uppercuts, then runs to the other side of the ring to get momentum, and he hits a running European uppercut that causes Gunther to fall down in the corner. Nick hits a drive-by kick, then goes for the pin. 1, 2, Gunther kicks out. Nick goes for the MDD, but Gunther powers out of it, hits a German suplex, then goes to the top rope and hits a diving splash for a long 2. Gunther gets Nick into the corner and unloads with 5 thunderous chops that puts Nick up on the turnbuckle. Nick tries to fight out of it, but Gunther hits another chop, then an avalanche butterfly suplex. Nick manages to roll out of the ring before Gunther can go for the pin. He's seen holding his back in pain. Gunther follows him out of the ring, and Irish whips him hard into the steel steps. He picks him up and runs him back first into the steel post. Gunther gets Nick back in the ring and hits a backbreaker for another long 2 count. Gunther hits the last sympathy, which is an Emerald Fusion. Nick kicks out again at 2. Gunther turns Nick around and locks in a high angle Boston Crab. Nick manages to get within a fingertip of the ropes, but Gunther drags him back into the middle of the ring. Nick is almost able to turn over, but Gunther transitions into an STO. Nick manages to barely drag himself and Gunther over to the bottom rope. Gunther holds on to the count of 4 so he doesn't get disqualified, but causes maximum pain. Gunther goes to the top rope again for the splash, but Nick manages to move at the very last second. Nick picks up Gunther and hits a spine shaker, which is a belly to the back side slam for a long 2 count. Nick tries to Irish whip Gunther, but he counters and Irish whips him instead and goes for the discus clothesline, but Nick ducks under and hits a rebound clothesline of his own. Nick hits a diving elbow drop from the top rope. Nick locks in a Boston Crab of his own, and just as Gunther had, Nick pulls Gunther back into the middle. Gunther tries to power out by turning on his back and kicking Nick off, but Nick holds on and transitions into the King's Cloverleaf. Gunther makes it to the bottom rope by a fingertip. Nick goes for the MDD, but Gunther manages to escape, kick Nick in the gut, and hits a power bomb. 1, 2. Nick kicks out. Gunther is shocked. Gunther picks Nick up and hits a folding power bomb this time, but again, Nick kicks out at 2. You can see Gunther's frustrated, but he gets up and he waits for Nick to get up a little bit, and he locks in a rear naked choke. We see Nick is fading. The ref puts up the hand at 1. It drops. Again at 2. It drops. And then at 3, the hand starts to fall again, but right before it hits the mat, Nick holds on and lifts the arm up and starts to hulk up. Nick manages to get to his feet. Gunther locks his legs around Nick and locking in the hold. Nick is barely still standing, like you see his legs shaking, but he manages to carry the weight, and then he falls backward as he jumps, forcing Gunther to hit the back of his head and forces him to break the hold. Both men are down and they fight their way back to their feet, with Gunther getting up a second before Gunther goes for the discus clothesline again, but Nick ducks under and he hits the MDD, which again is a sit out scoop slam pile driver. 1, 2. Gunther gets to his feet, or gets his foot on the bottom rope. Nick is like shocked and surprised, but he gets to his feet and he grabs Gunther, who in a last ditch effort chops Nick. but Nick manages to power through it and he hits another MDD. But instead of going for the cover, he locks in the King's Cloverleaf. Gunther crawls and tries to get to the bottom rope, but right before he can, Nick pulls him to the center of the ring again. Gunther tries to hold on, but he can't. Gunther taps out. Your winner and new PWR World Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis. Nick is joined in the ring by Mickey James and their son Donovan. As the ref is going to hand the title to Nick, Gunther gets back to is back on his feet. He snatches it away from the ref, and he gets in Nick's face. As Nick tells Mickey and Donovan to get behind him, Gunther looks at the title, and then he places it on Nick's shoulder, pats him on the chest, and we see him mouth, "Congratulations," and stick out his hand. Nick looks down, hesitate, and shakes his hand. Gunther leaves the ring and makes his way to the back as Nick celebrates as confetti falls from the sky. That's it for that one.
I am going to start off by saying I know it's like the last show of this Book It verse, and I know you want to give the babyface payoff.
But you shouldn't have.
I don't know if you picked the right guy to beat Gooner. And I
Children's show.
don't know if this is the storyline that should have culminated this, if that makes sense. Like, had you had this exact build, like on show 3, and Gooner win, and then go to have somebody else for show 4, I think I would have liked it better. And it's not just because I think Nick Aldis is kind of boring outside of this. It's like just because like the build that I was given here didn't make me think this is the guy.
Okay.
So aside from that, I think you did a really good job. I just think the outcome was wrong, and this was better as an extender than an ender.
Okay.
I'm gonna give this a 4.
Okay. I'll take that still.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. It was just like, yeah, I would have liked this better on the 3rd show.
Okay.
Just a straight 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight 4.
I think that's a good score for it.
Could be a
I'm at a
bisexual
4 as
four.
well. I'm definitely a 4 as well.
Did you say, Mike?
I said it could have been a bisexual 4.
What does that mean? What is a bisexual 4?
I don't even know what that means, but that's hilarious.
Like, what does that mean?
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It's the people going.
It's sexy.
I don't know, man. I don't really like that ending. Maybe it's just, I just don't like those endings where everybody's all happy and here's a handshake, fella.
I mean, sometimes. I
I
mean,
feel
look.
like this was one of those. I don't know, man.
Like Gunther's
Didn't
Gunther's brutal and like all that, but he's not like he's not like
confirmed.
he's not evil.
I don't know, man. This didn't. Maybe it should have been. I'm going 375.
Okay, I'll still take that. Yeah.
I was gonna say, ain't nothing wrong with having a happy ending.
I don't feel. I feel like this should have been.
We're
a
so
happy
nice,
ending.
this Book
Is
It
there
verse.
more left to this show, or this is it?
No,
He
there's,
got one
there's
more.
one more thing.
Okay, there's one more.
Yes.
One more thing.
There's one more thing. And before Mike complains about it, because I know you're going to, it is a cinematic match.
Well, that's fine. I don't give a fuck, man.
Okay, so after defeating Edge and Christian at Shipwreck, with Cody Rhodes' help, Abraham Lincoln appears ready to move on from the feud with the Coven. But they aren't quite done with him. He has a
That's the
match
main
with,
event too.
yeah,
Okay.
this is the main event.
Okay.
He has a match with Elias and looks prepared to win when the ref gets knocked down accidentally. Lincoln hits the John Wilkes boot and goes for the pin, but there's no ref. The lights flash and Vampiro comes out from under the ring and then attacks Lincoln, hitting him with the nail in the coffin, which is a Michinoku driver number 2, then putting Elias on top as the ref wakes up and counts the pin 1, 2, 3. The next week, a sadistic madness match between the two takes place, with Lincoln ending up victorious at the end. After the match, Gangrel appears on the Tron. well done, Mr. Lincoln. Congratulations on another victory over the Coven. But I sure do think it's time we reveal your dirty little secret. Your wife, Mary,
Dirty little secret.
is one of us. She is a vampire. Lincoln dejectedly leaves the ring. As he's leaving the arena, Maria was trying to catch up with him to get an interview, and asks Lincoln if what Gangrel said is true. Is Mary Lincoln really a vampire? Lincoln stops walking, takes a deep breath, and says, yes. Then keeps walking away and gets in his car and drives off. The next week, Gangrel and the rest of the Coven appear on the Tron. Last week, the truth finally was revealed. That this entire time that Lincoln has been fighting against us, that he lies in bed with one of us. But how would I know this, you ask?
Pause.
I know because I am the one who gave her the gift. You see, about 2 years ago, Abraham and Mary started to have some marital problems, and she kicked Honest Abe out of the house. Now, I've known Mary since college. We dated in college, but lost touch when I dropped out to become a pro wrestler. Then, years later, we found each other here in PWR when Abraham joined the roster. Over the next few months, we started talking, and we had an affair under Abraham's nose. Then it happened. She asked me, no,
That's a big nose.
she asked me, no, she begged me to give her the gift. The gift
No.
of eternal life, the gift of vampirism.
I thought he gave her the gift that keeps on giving. I was like, woof. He gave her the herp derp.
At first,
STD.
At first, I told her no. She didn't really want it, but she wouldn't stop asking me. So I relented, and one night, as we made love, I bit her. Then she drank my blood, and we truly became one. But then everything took a turn for the worst. She decided she still wanted to be with Abraham and told him what she had done. But instead of embracing the gift I had given her, he sought to find a cure. He keeps her locked away in their log cabin, living off the blood of rats and whatever scraps she can find to control the thirst. Have any of you wondered why she hasn't been seen in public in years? He's the real He's the real monster, not me, not us, as he points to the rest of the coven. Abraham, you will never be able to get rid of my kind as long as you're married to one of us. And I know, unlike me, you don't have it in you to do what needs to be done. He then pulls out a spike out of his pocket and grabs Vampiro by the hair and yanks on it, pulls his hair back. You failed me. You were supposed to finish the job.
You gonna kill him?
He then drives the stake through the heart of Vampiro, who drops to the ground, gasping for air. Then, when Vampiro pulls the heart, or what is it? Pulls the stake out of Vampiro, he turns into dust and disappears. Abraham, I'll be waiting your response. So over the next month, we don't see anything from Lincoln, but Gangrel starts wrestling more in ring, beating Trey Miguel, Juicing Thunder Liger, Suicide, and Mike Quackenbush, each in more dominating fashion. Then he covers them in a bloodbath. Each time saying, "Where are you, Abraham?" Gangrel has a match with Juice Robinson and wins under 3 minutes. He beats the shit out of him. After the match, he is about to hit another Impaler DDT when the lights dim and we see a log cabin in the woods covered in snow. We see a tall man carrying wood into the house, put them down, and then throw some of them into the fire. The man sits down, and then the camera pans to a woman handcuffed to the bed. We then see that it's Mary Lincoln and it's Abraham in the chair. She's squirming and trying with all her strength to get out of the cuffs and hissing, and like you can see her fangs. And you can tell she's fully transformed into a vampire. Mary, my love, Dr. Jekyll called, and unfortunately, my greatest fears have been realized. There is no cure to this curse that you've been given. I love you, my dear. I always have and always will.
Not Dr.
But,
Jekyll.
but why, Mary? Why? Why did you have to let him do this to you? She's full of vampire. I hate you. Let me go. I'm afraid that I can't do that, my dear. He then pulls out a stake and raises it over his head. I'm sorry. I love you. And then he drives the stake into the heart of his wife as we see a tear stream down his face. Mary screams out no as Abe pulls the stake out. For a moment, the old Mary sneaks out and says, I love you too, Abe. And then she turns to dust. Abe then gets up, takes a gas can, pulls it out, walks out, and sets the cabin on fire. He then looks at the camera as like it's in a blaze behind him. Gangrel, you destroyed my marriage, my family, my life. At no quarters given, I end yours. Me, you, fight to the death. Gangrel, who's watching, says, I accept. We then see Freddie Blassie later asked about the match backstage and says, I know that Gangrel and Abraham want to kill each other, literally, but it's my job to protect this company. For that reason, in good conscience, I could not approve of a fight to the death. But I also know I can't stop them from doing it. So at no quarters given, it will be an unsanctioned fight to the death. May God have mercy on their souls.
I'm ready for this.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can I
Yes.
ask a question? So in the cabin,
Yes.
we watched all that happen, and
Yes.
then he walked out and then talked straight. He fourth walled to the camera.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that
He
up.
said I just needed that clarification.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we
It's
need
like
Tiffy the
third straight
Vampire
book
Slayer.
verse that Damona's killed someone.
We
I
need
want-
Tiffy the
I-
Vampire
I
Slayer.
just
That's what I
want-
want. I want Tiffy the Vampire Slayer next book and verse. That's what I want.
I don't think I that's
Tiffany
not coming from
Stratton?
me.
Yes. Tiffy the Vampire Slayer.
Unfortunately I already drafted Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so
I was about to say, and I already got Tiffany Stratton, so he can't use her.
That you can do.
Three-way
You
trade.
it's on
Three-way
you.
trade.
So like I said, it is a cinematic match. So it's shot in the style of Sin City. So like most of it is in like black and white, but then you see some bit of color. First we see Gangrel, who is surrounded by the remaining members of the coven. He's sitting on his throne, and like he's being given weapons to use. Ariel gives him a goblet, and he drinks from it, and we see his eyes light up red as he stands up and makes his way out of the lair. Edge and Christian try and join him, but he says, no, I have to do this alone. It's personal. He then makes his way out of the lair as the rest of the coven
Business.
are clearly like a little worried. Next, we see the back of Lincoln alone at a church praying. He gets up and we see him grab a series of weapons, including holy water, like a crucifix and a sword and a bunch of other stuff, like vampire hunting shit. Lastly, he grabs the stake that he used on Mary. He kept it. So he gets up and makes his way out of the church. The screen momentarily goes black and then comes back on to both men. They're standing about 50 feet from each other. They're in a graveyard. On the screen, it says approximately 10 p.m. in an undisclosed location, and it's pouring rain. Well, Abraham, I'm glad that you actually showed up. I was afraid that you'd back out on me. Lincoln says, never in a million years. You and your coven have taken everything from me. Now it's me or you. We both can inhabit this earth for one more night. Gangrel smiles and says, I agree. And Gangrel charges at Abraham at like super speed.
I agree.
He knocks Lincoln down, so he charges at him like super fast, like almost superhuman, like superhuman speed. He knocks Lincoln down and starts hitting him over and over
It would be
in the face.
superhuman. He's not a human. He is a vampire.
Yeah, superhuman. True, superhuman
Does the
speed.
camera go back and forth and then run like
More like
Yeah.
supernatural speed,
Yeah.
more than superhuman speed.
Yeah.
Vampire.
Vampire speed. We'll say vampire speed. He knocks Lincoln down and starts hitting him over and over in the face. Lincoln is able to kick Gangrel off, make his way to his feet, and land a series of elbows to the face till Lincoln falls to, or not Lincoln, till Gangrel falls to a knee. He then hits a running knee strike. He gets on top of Gangrel and lands more punches until Gangrel is able to push him off and then hits a belly to belly suplex. Gangrel then starts to choke Lincoln until Lincoln is able to kick Gangrel off, and then he spears Lincoln through one of the tombstones. Aim gets up and tries to chokeslam Gangrel, but when he gets up, but Gangrel is able to fight him off, and he rakes Abe's eyes, then hits a Northern Light suplex. Gangrel pulls out a sword, and he tries to stab Lincoln, but Lincoln is able to dodge it and draw his sword as well and make his way to his feet. They sword fight back and forth until Gangrel is able to overpower Lincoln, and he's forcing him like back into the ground. But Abraham is able to push, like he almost gets him down, is able to push him away just before like he's about to get caught. He then slashes at Gangrel, but Gangrel is able to dodge it, and he kicks the sword out of Lincoln's hand. Gangrel then slashes Abe across the face with the sword. We see the red of the blood trickle down Lincoln's face as he like checks his cheek. Remember, this part's mostly black and all black and white, except for you see the red. Gangrel goes to do it again, but Lincoln avoids it, and Gangrel's swords get stuck in the mud. Lincoln takes advantage and hits a super kick, then a combo of punches, then a spinning back fist that sends Gangrel to the ground. As Gangrel starts getting up, Lincoln goes for a curb stomp, but Gangrel sweeps his legs out, and lands a series of elbow strikes to the head of Lincoln. He then picks Lincoln's head, or Lincoln, or he then picks up Lincoln overhead and throws him forward. He then starts to kick Lincoln repeatedly over and over in the stomach as like Lincoln's like crawling on the ground, causing Lincoln to start spitting out blood. He then drags Lincoln over to an unmarked grave, and like there's a casket next to it, and he tries to throw Lincoln into the casket, but Lincoln's able to avoid it, and he monkey flips Gangrel into the grave. He then gets up and hits a flying elbow in the grave to Gangrel. He then reaches in his like belt, and he pours holy water all over Gangrel's face. And we see Gangrel's skin like start to burn as he starts to scream out in pain. He grabs Lincoln by the throat, shows his fangs, and chokeslams him in the grave. He then jumps out of the grave in one fluid motion, grabs the shovel, waits for Lincoln to start getting up, and he hits him in the head with the shovel. This is going to be your final resting place. Say hi to Mary for me. He then repeatedly just is punching Lincoln over and over and over again until Lincoln's like limp, and we see like just blood pouring out of his mouth. He then lifts Lincoln up and he drags him out of the grave and then hits the Impaler DDT onto the casket. He then throws Lincoln into the casket and then kicks the casket into the grave. We then see him go over to a truck that has like a bunch of dirt on it, and he dumps the dirt into the grave, burying Lincoln. He then starts to walk away, grabbing and picks up his sword and like is dragging it across the ground. So the camera changes view into like you can see inside of the actual casket. You see that Lincoln is motionless and appears to have stopped breathing. Then the screen momentarily goes white. We then see Lincoln in an all white room. Lincoln's a little confused, like, where am I?
Swear to God, if this is the Matrix, I'm gonna punch you in the mouth.
It's not the Matrix. Well, it's not. This whole thing isn't the Matrix. Let me cook. I don't know if I'm burning or not. But let me cook. Lincoln's confused, and then he sees a woman in all white. But he recognizes her. He said, "Mary."
That's the architect.
He says, "Mary, Mary, is that you, my love?"
She could like an angel.
Mary turns around and she is normal again. She's no longer a vampire. She runs over to Lincoln. They hug, and he says, "Abraham, my dear, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She says, "I made a huge mistake, and I will regret it for eternity. Can you ever forgive me?" Abraham looks at her with tears in his eyes, and he says, "I already have.
No, he
I
says,
was
I will
distant.
never forgive you.
I was distant and too focused on my wrestling career and lost sight of what was important, and that's you." They hug again. She says, "But how
Mind
are
you, this
you
is a man
here?"
that was also the president of the United States of America to end slavery.
But it's my
Yes,
wrestling career that got in the way.
yes.
Yeah,
Um,
Civil War you can make it through, but not a fucking title match with Gangrel.
It's
not even
hearing
a
the
title
words.
match.
It's hearing the words "wrestling career got in the way" where you're speaking to someone who's coming from the great beyond. It's hilarious.
Where was I? Oh, they hug again. She says, "But how are you here?" Abraham says, looks dejected. "I failed. I tried to avenge you against him, and I lost.
It's not your time.
But I find comfort that we're together again." Mary pulls away and says, "No, not like this. You deserve to live on.
Yeah, I knew it.
But,
Gotta
but
get
my
shot in the head
dear,
first.
my mortal body may be dead, but I was already dead without you."
What did you
See-
watch? What
Nothing
were you
really.
like? Let's turn this into a wrestling match because this
Let me.
is multiple storylines.
Yes.
Movies I've seen.
She says, She says, "I love you," and he says, "I love you too." They kiss, and then she says, "I'm sorry. I have to do this because I love you. You must defeat Gangrel, not just for me, but for yourself." She then pushes him backward and out of the white room,
This
and
is
he's like,
Deadpool.
and out of the white room. To be fair, I've
It's
never
Deadpool
actually seen.
Wolverine.
I haven't seen it.
This is exactly what happens.
I haven't seen it. We then cut back to Lincoln. So he gets pushed out of the white room, and then cuts back to Lincoln, who's in the grave, and then you see him take a deep breath, inhale, and then his eyes open, and he's awakens. We then see him struggle and force the casket open, and he digs his way out of the grave. Gangrel's like a little bit, so like time almost was standing was pretty much
Maybe
standing
it's
still when it
Deadpool
happened.
2.
And then
This is what it
Gangrel's
is.
walking away, and we hear Abraham says, "Gangrel, I'm not dead yet. Come finish me."
You came
Gangrel
back
turns
wrong,
around,
Lincoln.
turn Gangrel turns around annoyed and runs back towards Lincoln, swinging the sword wildly.
Lincoln said,
Which
"I hear no bell."
I almost said that, and I
I hear
decided
no
not
bell.
to.
I'm
Manages
expecting a Spike Buffy thing going on, and they end up banging and breaking it out.
Gangrel and Abraham Lincoln.
I did not hear that referee count to 10.
Hold on. Gangrel turns around annoyed and runs back towards Lincoln, swinging the sword wildly. Lincoln manages to avoid it, grab him by the wrist, and causes Lincoln to drop the sword. Lincoln then lands a series of punches and kicks, sending Gangrel stumbling. He grabs Gangrel, who then stabs Lincoln in the side with a dagger and laughs maniacally until he realizes that Lincoln is still standing and like not going down. Lincoln then headbutts him, and he goes flying backward. And when he stands up, Lincoln hits the John Wilkes boot onto where the grave used to be. Lincoln then punches Gangrel over and over and over, and pounding him into the dirt. Gangrel is like a bloody mess, just poured in blood. Abraham grabs the spike from his belt and says, "I don't want to do this. I hate you, but I don't want to be like you, fueled by hatred and evil." Leave and never return, and I will let you live. It doesn't have to end this way. Gangrel says, "Fuck you," and spits in Lincoln's
Very
face.
eloquent.
So he spits in his face, like, and you just see the blood pool, like, get onto Lincoln's face from the spit.
Is the blood red? Everything goes black and white.
Yeah, everything's black and white
Yeah,
and
I
It's
just
then
want to
the
make
blood,
red.
sure.
right?
Yeah,
You gotta have
yeah,
the red blood.
yeah.
I
The
just want
red
to make
blood.
sure because he
Yeah,
said it
everything else is
simply.
yeah, everything is black and white except for the blood.
Because I got to make sure we got to know everything that's in color for this. I need to
Yeah,
know.
yeah. So like originally you could see Gangrel covered in blood. Then Lincoln talks, and then Gangrel's black and white again. But then when he spits, you just see the spit of the red from the spit of the red from the spit. So be it. Lincoln then drives the spike into Gangrel's heart, and then pulls it out. We see Gangrel slowly start to turn to dust and fade away. So then back in the Coven layer, we see that the Coven, so Edge, Christian, Ariel, Kevin Thorne, all of them, they're back to the normal selves and no longer vampires. And they're all like, like, how the hell did I get here? Lincoln gets up slowly and walks out of the graveyard, a bloody mess, a
You watch
bloody
slowly.
mess as he's a bloody mess, but he's victorious as the show ends.
All right. Damn, I'm mad I wasted my 550, but this is getting a 5.
Thank you, sir.
No, that shit was gas. Had Gangrel actually won, had the false finish worked, this might have been a whole different rating. That would have pissed me off. But no, you
Oh, if
gave me what I
Gangrel won.
wanted.
That
Yeah,
would
you
be
gave me
wild.
what I wanted. And no, I love the white room thing. I was a little bit confused whether if like Mary was actually dead or not because like she had eternal life, but then she was dead and in heaven. So I was a little bit confused by
Well,
that.
yeah, she doesn't have a soul, so how the fuck she get to heaven? I got problem. There are
He gets to
narrative
heaven.
problems here, and I don't like it.
Well, in this vampire universe, she gets to go to heaven.
That doesn't fucking make sense.
It doesn't. That's how my universe works.
It doesn't. It still doesn't make
I'm not
sense.
bad at it.
If
I'm
I
not
was
bad at it.
watching
Wrestling
it,
logic.
And she's dead. And she's dead from when he stabbed her with the spike. So she's technically dead. So, and
Saw the
she
true
came
self.
back.
They saw the true enlightened self.
Yes.
Yeah, but that was gas. That was everything I wanted it to be. It was fucking dumb. It was cool. It was violent. Um, it it was everything not wrestling, and that's why I gave it $5.
Thank you.
He said, "I'm sorry, I gave up on you for my wrestling career." That's just hilarious.
God damn, I loved you. You know, I ended slavery if I led us to the Civil War. But god damn, did I need to win the NXT championship first.
When I beat Sean Stasiak to become the Intercontinental Champion,
That was the highlight of
I
my
didn't
life.
put you first. That's the problem.
I needed to beat Braun Breaker for the fucking NXT title so badly that I forgot you existed.
but that doesn't explain why he was a vampire hunter. What? He was a wrestler. Not once did you mention he was a vampire hunter, vampire slayer, or anything. They were just vampires there.
There were vampires and they kept attacking him because Gangrel hates him and he
He
kept
was
getting
forced to
attacked.
become that.
So he was forced
So
to start
he
hunting them.
actively murdered his wife on screen, then looked and gave a monologue to Gangrel for him. It didn't have. All right, so you didn't have to have an official match. You could have just had a fight. You
It's
know what
not
I mean?
official. It's unsanctioned.
It doesn't matter. You didn't have to have the call out. You could have just the narrative. You could have.
Well,
just
he had to know
strung
that
it-
they were that he Gangrel.
I had a problem with that too. I had a problem with that.
I
I
did
agree
not
on that
think
part.
it
Mike.
needed
Okay.
to be within the wrestling realm anymore. I think you could
I do
have
agree
had
with
it
that.
beyond that. So narratively, all right. So narratively, I had problems with the story.
Okay.
There were some things I had questioned my head. I was trying to follow the lore, and as a vampire fan, first and
I
foremost.
changed some of the lore.
This
I
To be
know.
fair,
this
to be fair,
reminded
Mike, you don't like horror unless it's your horror.
I love horror. No,
I
that's
did
not
change
true.
some.
I
I will
didn't
say
give your horror a bad score. I just
I'm
didn't give
just
it a
saying.
5.
I'm just saying.
I did change some of the
Um,
vampire lore.
I
Nothing
mean,
wrong with that.
following your I just it was yeah. I mean, d- if I was watching this in the movie theater, I would have had questions. This is like the fucking 5th Underworld movie.
Never saw it. Never
Buffy.
seen an
This
Underworld
is Buffy the
movie.
Vampire Slayer
Not
season
missing out on
6.
anything.
I don't remember that one.
It was the bad one. It was season sucks. There was a lot of rape, and
There was no rape here.
There's
We will murder someone. We will not have sexual deviance on my roster.
we had people getting handcuffed, but that's as far as it went.
He was only
Um,
handcuffing her to keep her from like going full on
I'm
murders.
personally not a fan of black and white, but I'm not gonna hold that against you because I get the stylistic part of it. I'm gonna give you a 4.5.
I'll take
I
it.
liked the idea. I thought there was some execution faults, which if 5's perfect, it wasn't perfect.
Okay,
You know what
I'll still take a
mean?
4.5.
I had some issues with it.
A Gangrel versus Abe Lincoln match getting a 4.5.
I also hated that. I also hated that the other vampires stopped being vampires after Gangrel died. I thought that was dumb.
Okay.
That's bad. Either they die or they go on continue being vampires because
The curse was lifted.
Yeah. That's bad. I don't like.
See, I can't say anything about that because I've seen vampire movies where if you kill the person that sired them, then they're fixed.
Yeah.
and that usually happens to not the underling people. Usually it's whenever the girlfriend gets bit, then whoever bit her, that's how they bring her back after she got
A lot of time
bit.
that's the minions and stuff, but when they switch over vampire, you're usually not gonna turn back into a human because your body's dead, man. Like it's not.
I get you, but like I said, we've seen this stuff happen. Like when the
And that's
girl,
dumb.
because usually the girl turns into a vampire and they're all sexy and stuff.
I think usually they get like hypnotized. I mean, I know they turn the vampires in like Dracula, those female vampires into vampires, but they also like I think in their case the underlings died after Dracula gets killed, but Dracula never actually dies.
Well, usually the underlings just get flat out killed, and then like I said, using the girlfriend, so they turn the day before.
Hypnotized, but I don't know, man. I don't like that. I thought that was dumb because I felt like it was dumb. I don't like it.
Okay.
So it's just me then.
Yep.
Yeah, so I didn't have a problem with that because, like I said, I've seen that before, so I don't have a problem with that. I also agree with what he said though when he said the GM being like, "We're gonna make this unsanctioned match." There shouldn't have been a GM in there at all. It should have just been like, "I'm gonna kill you when I get a chance," and that should have just been it.
Okay.
And I also had a problem with match placement. I feel like this shouldn't have been the main event.
That was something
I feel like this should have been. If anything, this should have been the main event.
That's a bad one. How the fuck you gonna have people dying and going to heaven?
Yeah, I did that. I was torn on this.
And then well, now Gunther's gonna fight for the world championship against some
But
British guy.
but every storyline like that, it's usually in the middle though. Every storyline when it's like supernatural, they usually do that in the middle of the card. That's not really a main event.
For cinematic matches, I don't feel like those should be mid card because then like the fans are just gonna be sitting there with no live show. So logistically, you put that at the end so the real fans can stay and watch, and then the other half.
No. You want everybody to sit in their seat and watch the entire thing from start to finish. You don't.
That's the main event.
You do this mid card or right before the end. It kind of does give some people a break. This should not be the final thing because people are ready to go to bed and go home. You know what I mean?
Well, I get it, but
if you're watching this
nothing about your live
dark
presentation.
Cinematic, it's not gonna sit well with how he has it. This should not be.
We lock the doors.
You want people to go home. You want people to go home hype and happy.
They're hype and happy that Abe Lincoln
They're not going home hype and happy after that. That's not hype and happy.
They're hype and happy that love won.
Absolutely the main event. Y'all are on crack.
You have confetti come down, and now you're telling them. Now you got to sit through this and watch.
Exactly, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt.
Yes, and you know what? I don't even think the Gooner match should have had confetti. This was the main event.
Well, it did have
Like-
confetti.
I was gonna
That
say,
would have
I-
been disgusting
But it
if this
did.
had
I
confetti.
mean, I
You-
don't know if
it
that
didn't,
would
but it
work.
did.
Abe Lincoln gets the confetti that comes down.
He
Confetti
takes
from
some
heaven.
confetti shoots out of him.
Confetti.
Take it.
Mary's from
Now-
heaven sprinkling confetti.
If you had finished this in the ring,
I didn't want it to
then-
be in the
then
ring.
I understand that, but I'm telling you, if you finish this more like an
Nah,
actual
this
match,
nah.
but
It's
Hey,
Nah.
Damone.
I don't
Fuck
like.
them.
I don't like when they do
Maybe-
cinematic matches and then it just
I mean,
becomes
you
a
could have
regular
done all
wrestling match.
cinematics and then, but I'm just saying, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't
Kenny, I'm
like it
sorry.
Things
ending
I
in
can't
a-
hijacked
go
your
this
point
deep,
because
and
I
then
wanted
people
to
want
say
to
it,
watch
and I
just
forgot.
regular wrestling after that. This is the end of the show. I don't get where y'all coming from.
no,
at all.
because
not.
here's
This could
the
be
thing. No.
I don't want to watch
Worst
people
case
do a
scenario-
hold after watching somebody die.
Okay, worst
Like,
case scenario, you're doing this as an extra feature behind the credits or something, then, because it's a non-mandatory watch. Like, I don't know what.
But you
else
can
to
watch
tell
it when you get home. You can watch it on Netflix.
yeah, the real fans
People are gonna be
can
pissed.
stay
They're
for
gonna
the
be like, why
experience.
did they?
and
Stop
then
saying real fans,
everybody else
John.
can
Stop
keep
saying
it
nobody
separate.
wants that as the main event. When you have
You
the main event, you
mitigate
want
traffic problems in a metropolitan area.
no. When you do a
He's
when
doing
you
the
do
city a favor.
no, when you do the main event, you either put the world championship match right there, or you put a big spectacle of a match when you have these two
This is a big
players.
spectacle.
This is not.
No, it's not.
a spectacle
No,
of a
it's not.
match. It's
This is a
cinematic.
Someone
spooky.
died and went
This
to
is a
heaven.
supernatural. This is a supernatural match. This is what you put in the middle of the card. Because some people aren't
Middle
looking
of
for
the card.
supernatural in their wrestling.
Right.
Bro,
It just
went
is what it
to
is.
heaven. I'm not putting that in the middle of the fucking card.
I will
Like,
say,
would.
so
You could
I was
have
torn
also
between.
split this up throughout the card.
I was-
in
I was-
scenes.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that.
I'm just saying you could have.
Um,
Realistically, I'm not saying you could. I'm saying if this was a real show, that is something that could have happened. And then
I don't like that splitting it up because then it's
mean,
too hard to keep track of. And like if you
I
go
don't
to
know,
the
I did it pretty
bathroom,
well.
you miss a whole entire part. Like why the fuck is Abe Lincoln back? I thought he died. You're gonna be confused. But I will say I was torn on where to place this. If this should be the main event or the Gunther match should be the main event. So I went with this as the main event because, like, yes, I get the logistics of like wanting to keep people in the arena or whatever. But I felt like John said, going from Abe Lincoln not murdering, but killing a vampire to we're now going to have a regular wrestling match just felt off.
insane.
No, that sounds.
And
right.
also, the city that you host this in is gonna want to bring you back because you mitigated traffic problems.
That's not. No, stop
you're
this.
making
No,
traffic
when you're doing a
problems
cinematic
worse.
match, when you do like, has there ever been a cinematic match at the very end of pay-per-view that makes
Boneyard.
sense?
Well,
That makes-
to be fair, Boneyard was during COVID, so it's not
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
the
that's
same.
a little
Both
They
of
different.
really,
those-
No
they
traffic.
really stopped doing cinematic matches after COVID.
Broken
Like, they just
Broken
stopped.
Matt was the
I
main
think they
event.
tried one more, didn't they?
Was Broken Matt? Oh yeah,
I believe
wasn't
Broken
the
Matt was the
first-
main event of its
the
show.
first, yeah, the first Broken Matt match. I'm pretty
okay,
sure
but
was.
that wasn't that.
And then hell, even the
wasn't- but-
WWE Broken Matt was the main event of Raw.
Right, but that-
Of Raw, not of WrestleMania.
It
That's what I'm
should
saying.
have been on
That's what I'm
WrestleMania.
saying. We
anyways,
know.
anyways, Kenny.
But Vince don't know what the fuck he's doing, like
you're not
Damone
gonna-
does.
You're not gonna change Kenny's mind. Kenny,
No,
you're
because
not gonna-
I don't think it belongs here. I
Right.
don't.
I was-
I think
I like
if
I
you're
said, I
doing
was
if you're doing
torn.
this because you
Oh, I'm
you
not
had
doing this
confetti
to
come
change
down, right?
Kenny's mind. I'm doing this to change Travis's mind when he listens. Like,
No, when you do
No,
the
Travis already
you do the
answered.
confetti last match, right? I can't remember if you did or not. Yeah, let's say that's the whole. Yeah, we did it.
Right.
And then it's like, by the way, we got one more match. It's like, wait a minute, what? I don't think that
That's kind of
belongs.
how
there.
I felt. Too.
Also, it being unsanctioned, I didn't want it
yeah,
in the middle of the
unsanctioned always
card.
goes up.
I always think that unsanctioned should go at the end.
It shouldn't even have to be unsanctioned.
It shouldn't have been unsanctioned. That's my whole thing. It shouldn't have been unsanctioned. It should have been we're going to kill each other,
Yes.
and then you get have your little storyline, and then like I say, if
I
anything,
get what you're saying.
this
yeah.
this is all one night, right? It wasn't legit
Yeah,
two
this
nights.
is all. Yeah, it was technically it was one night. Yeah.
This should have for this should because I thought this last week. This should have been the pay-per-view or not pay-per-view, but end of night one. It should have been the end of that one for
Alright,
us to
that's
go
what
home.
you
Like, hey, Abe Lincoln's back, and that should have been it.
I
But
get what you're
but
saying.
yeah, but I don't think it should have ended the entire show.
But yeah, I was
I-
torn between this and the Gunther match on which to have be the actual main event. But
Yeah.
I get your points too.
There's a couple lines I didn't like though too.
There's
To get
a-
into that, but
more
I
than a few lines.
yeah
they
I
were
was
cheesy.
I didn't. It was to me, it was good, not great. It was
Right.
already a crazy storyline, so it's
Right.
only going to be wacky from here.
Right.
Right.
So I gave you a 3.75 for this.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll
I didn't
take
hate
it,
it,
even
but it
though we
wasn't
didn't
like
get it.
I didn't think it was 5. It was good, not
It
great
was
for this.
definitely
I'll,
not 5.
and I'll tell you this. At one point, I almost have had Lincoln turn into a werewolf.
That would have been the worst thing you've ever done. That would have honestly brought me down to like a fucking 2.
I almost also had Lincoln use a silver bullet.
I would have
How
gone
can
back
you-
into the
Silver
scores
Bullet
and
doesn't work on
retracted
vampires.
Travis's 550 and given it to you.
In some lore, they do.
No, that's the silver bullets for werewolves.
Silver bullets for werewolves.
I know,
Silver
mostly,
cross,
but they're,
maybe.
they're
But silver's werewolves. Crosses are usually vampires.
but I didn't do it. Yeah, I'm
That into a werewolf is crazy. I would have been like, this is
I
gone
can't hate
bananas.
like my next book of verse is gonna be wacky as fuck. So like I said, I've drafted Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like if you look at my draft,
you better do a good werewolf, or not werewolf, a good vampire story. You got to carry on the legacy
I'm
of
doing a good
Abraham Lincoln. You got
I
a high
mean,
standard.
I didn't get Abraham, but I think I'm
I
gonna
have
do a good
Abraham,
job.
but he's not Vampire Hunter in
I'm
that
gonna do a
in
good job.
my next one.
I've been watching a lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're in good hands.
Me too. I'm right there with you.
I remember we bought it for Voodoo,
Yeah,
and then
I
I haven't
watched
watched
it
it
on
since.
But now it's on every other streaming service too. So
Right.
I wish I watch it on
at
Hulu.
that point, it wasn't.
Angel's better anyway.
I don't agree at all.
I agree. Angel's
The
better. By a lot.
first 5 seasons of Buffy are chef's kiss.
Not 5.
6 is real
Definitely.
hard to
I'll give you
watch.
3.
5 is fun as fuck. I don't
I-
know what you're talking
First
about.
3, I'll give you that.
5 is great.
Not 4 and 5.
4 is up. 4 is not
4
good.
Okay,
5 is
listen,
good.
we're not gonna sit there and say all
I
shifts.
like
4
5.
was
I
bad.
think 5 had some of the best villains. I think I like Dawn. Dawn's one of my favorite parts of Buffy.
Oof, yeah, all right, Mike, you
Without
got it.
Dawn,
I can't even argue with you on that one.
without Dawn, we don't get Once More with Feeling
Yeah, I
because
can't.
she played a role in that. Once More with Feeling's by far my favorite.
Dawn is
show of
easily
all
the worst
time.
thing about that show.
No,
that's why I can't.
not
That's
at
why we can't even
all.
do this debate now. we can't even
At
do this.
all. I like
Gotcha.
Dawn. Dawn is fun.
But yeah, that was no quarters given.
After all that, by the way,
Let's
them
wrap
turning
this
to a
shit up.
werewolf would have been nuts. That would have been.
That was
nuts.
almost the secret too. At one point, the secret was that Abraham Lincoln's secretly a werewolf. And then I was gonna have him. And then I changed it. I changed it to the Mary thing. And then at one point, I was gonna have him turn. I was gonna at one point have him turn into a werewolf mid match. But then I decided to do the
$10.
white room.
No, you
thing.
should have had him turn into a vampire mid match, and he's trying to fight through it.
He's a vampire with a soul.
He's changing, like he's slowly turning into a vampire.
I did almost.
I
I did almost have a secret also at one point. Originally, the secret was going to be that Abe's actually a vampire too.
That's what you should have did. Yeah, you should have did that. And then when
Angel.
they're fighting, the sun was coming up, and then he talking him out, and it was like, they were getting burnt up. That's what you should have did. That's
And
how you
then
should
he has
have.
a friend named Cordelia and Gunn. And Fred.
That's hilarious.
And
but yeah, that
Leslie
movie-
comes to join.
Hi-Fi Mike, can they find you anywhere yet?
Hell fucking no. Leave me alone.
Fuck
Get
you.
off the internet, man. Like, I hate it here.
D Money, tell them where they can find you after hearing this.
You can find me on all the bullshit at DumbMoneyT13, DAMONEYT13.
No, we gotta have confetti, Sean. All
Confetti
main
during,
events got confetti.
confetti during a fight to the death is crazy.
It's hilarious.
Oh, so that last fight, I imagine in the background, My Chemical Romance is shooting a music video. Just roll with it. Like,
Sure.
I did not picture that at all.
the Vampires Will Never Hurt You, I imagine was playing over it.
Over
as a
and over.
montage.
You can hear the water splashing as the rain pours down.
Blink 182's on the other corner playing I Miss You.
That's insane.
And then Bad Guy, tell them about your 37 shows.
Catch me on all social medias at Bad Guy Spoken. Catch the Bad Guy Spoken podcast on YouTube And you can also catch Unbiased, the football podcast, on the same channel. You'll see TK throw little you like this. And you can also catch Hood Movie Review. We'll review all your favorite and not so favorite Hood movies. We are currently doing Booty Call. We had to delay it because TK got sick, so we're gonna do that here soon. And then you can also catch Not a Real Court, where we argue things like best fruit. Didn't do best vegetable yet, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do
Ain't
it.
never gonna fucking eat a vegetable.
And then
Only if it comes with wings.
yep. Yeah, that's celery.
Celery.
Like, get all
Celery
the
and
celery, get all the
carrots.
shit out of here. Get some more wings. And last but not least, you can also catch Geek in the Motherfucking Sheets, where we talk all things anime, Marvel, DC, all that shit. We're virgins on that show.
And Sean, no, Mary does not come back to life. She stays in heaven.
It just doesn't make sense. She was a vampire.
No,
She
Nobody
you gotta
brings
stay in
her to
heaven.
life.
She's already dead.
Wake me up.
Wake
me up
inside.
Yeah, Evanescence. Yeah, and the final sequence is definitely "Bring Me Back to Life" playing.
You got corn coming out. I've been reading Interview with a Vampire. That's been fun.
I love that movie. I need to read that book.
No. I'm reading it, not watch it. There's also a
No.
TV show. I want to watch that new one.
I want to
too.
watch the TV show. I've seen a couple of clips.
I watched,
Looks
I think,
good.
an episode. I was like, I'm gonna read this year. So, Interview with the Vampire.
I might do that.
It's a lot
We're getting
spicier
smart,
than I thought
Mike,
it would
this
be,
year.
and it's very homoerotic. It's great. It's a fantastic book.
And if you want to find me anywhere, Blue Sky at Heel Pepsi Man. I'm gonna spell heel right this time. HEEL Pepsi. You should know how to spell that. Man, you should know how to spell that. Fuck y'all. And if you want to find me on Reach the Ropes Wrestling Discussion Facebook group, that is the birthplace of all these connections. And we could talk about I don't know, whatever the fuck happened on Raw tonight. I'm not fed pilled. You might be.
I'll watch it tomorrow, maybe.
But
3 for 3.
with that said, that's been an episode of Book It. See ya.
Bye.
Oh, I gotta press the button.
You gotta press the
find
button,
it,
Mike.
man.
Bye.
Some time. You gotta.
Bye.
I'm not there yet. All right. Oh, no, hold on.